But when you have a team like the Detroit Lions that have forced themselves into the conversation, now you're starting to catch the people off guard. Go and do your homework. Just period. We've been talking about the fact that this was in something, these fourth down calls, which has just kind of ignited so much conversation, that this is stuff with Dan Campbell that goes back to his predecessors. And it's amazing when you see other teams do things, how they're praised. The Chiefs can be praised for whatever their Chiefs magic is. It doesn't matter how they win. It doesn't matter if the team sucks that they beat barely. It doesn't matter if the team is great that they beat barely. There's other narratives out there as well that just kind of, the media finds a way to kind of let those things sail. But with the Lions, it's like, hey, let's make sure that we cut the sails. Make sure we take a little bit out of their sails. And that's why I love Dan Campbell, because he just doesn't care, man. Here, Tedy Bruschi says Dan Campbell needs to start coaching like a top dog. Now, look, man, when you look at who Dan Campbell is, I remember sitting back, and y'all have heard me say this before, when we were playing the Saints in the playoffs, and they didn't punt one time. One time, bro. It was just like touchdown, 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 touchdown. I was mad. And I wasn't mad just because we were doing it. I was mad, one, because we couldn't stop them, and I was mad because we couldn't do that. Now we got a coach literally from that lineage who's going out there and just bodying teams, and people like Tedy Bruschi are complaining. That's the weird part to me. I would assume that Dan Campbell, I would assume that Tedy Bruschi would be a Dan Campbell type guy.
He hasn't. He hasn't been. I'll let you go, Sam. I got my own feelings about this because I've been watching Tedy Bruschi a while now. Go ahead.
No, I just we have the comments from Tedy Bruschi actually. If we want to get the full context of exactly what he said.
Give me Dan Campbell on the field with me. I'll take it. Yeah. Don't put Dan Campbell on my sideline. I don't know. I don't know the emotional control of this coach. I mean, every single time. Does it have to be every single time? The 4th and 1, when you're on the 31-yard line going out, that was obvious to me. I mean, this can't happen. I mean, this guy wants to go for it even now, and they get stopped right here and basically give Green Bay a touchdown because all they got to go is like 29 yards, and they score a touchdown here, and it's a different game. So you wouldn't have been in this situation maybe if you punt it and you let your defense play against a quarterback that has the tendency to throw to the other team also. This is every single time? Why does it have to be every single time? No, let me say something here, because Dan Campbell came into this league talking about being kicked down and biting on ankles and chewing on kneecaps. Well, there's no more, and let me tell you, Detroit Lion fans, there's no more ankles and kneecaps to bite. You're on top. Start playing like it and start coaching like it, because sometimes you got to know when to be in a game to where let the other team mess up because I know I'm better, because it's going to give us a better chance to win. There are those situations that I don't think Dan Campbell knows right now that he still has to learn. And I have been watching him this entire season based on the way last season ended. Okay, did he learn in the offseason? Maybe he's a little less emotional. He is not. He's the same player. And this could come back to bite him.
And listen, man, like Tedy Bruschi is somebody that I've been a fan of, especially the football player. Like those old Patriots defenses, Rodney Harrison, Willie McGinnis, and Tedy Bruschi was right in the middle of that. I used to absolutely love Tedy Bruschi, the player, which is why I've paid attention to his comments for quite some time in regards to things related Lions. And Tedy Bruschi is somebody who I feel, even when he does agree with some of the things the Lions does, it just always seems like it's in the tone of he doesn't necessarily actually, he doesn't actually believe in what the hell we trying to do here. And I swear I don't mean this in a way to diss him, but I just don't know if his football mind can comprehend what Dan Campbell and what the Lions do as a team. And Rex Ryan even, and it's ironic because I watched this clip this morning, so it's ironic that we had this on the show.
Of course.
Rex Ryan even tried to break it down for him that, hey, Dan Campbell is one of the most prepared coaches in the NFL. And I think that's a thing that gets lost on the national media, or even, some people that are from here that don't really understand why he keeps doing this. He's not flying on the seat of his pants. He's not getting up here every Sunday and, let's say in the second quarter, I just want to go for it now. Fuck it. Like, there's a level of preparation that goes into all of these fourth down decisions. They coach these. They practice these. They are this. Why do you think they so prepared when these moments come around?
I think you get that something though, bro, because I really think he still believes in that early narrative.
Exactly.
He went back to his early speech. Do you think he's some dumb hobunkin? Like, just speak from your chest.
A lot of people do though,
because
and it's
that's
sad.
what I'm talking about. And it started to piss me off because we're seeing this guy go out there. Like, listen to his players. His soldiers are like, bro, this is what we want. And we're going out there and we will execute. There were 4 or 5 on fourth downs. And no time did they look scared. Even after the one failed, as Neil was talking about, when you look at the numbers and the flow, it was like, oh, they're straight. We've seen this before. They've been put in every single situation you could think of this year. And Dan Campbell and this coaching staff has continued to do work. And what are you talking about coaching? They got the best coordinators. They got the best positional coaches. Like, what are you talking about? They got the current leading coach of the year. Canada. Like, what are you? Is this because we just won't accept Patricia's Patriot way trash? Like, I'm so.
I don't think it's that. I just think some people have a hard time realizing that this is who Dan Campbell is, good, bad, or indifferent. Like, the one popular thing is, oh, if it misses, then, we're up here calling him an idiot. But when you look at the fact that, and I said this last Friday, we always talk about the ones Dan Campbell don't get. But we need to start paying attention to the ones he do get, because he get it way more times than not. Like 4 out of 5, like you said, I think he's over 80% for his career on fourth down. This is fucking crazy. Like, Dan Campbell is redefining football in front of our eyes in the way it's coached and the way it's played. He utilizes that down in ways that other coaches just can't. And some people have a hard time comprehending that because that's not classic football. Like, get over yourself. You have to learn there's different ways of coaching, and Dan Campbell is doing it his way, and it's working.
And you know what I didn't like? That I get it, Tedy Bruschi. I don't want to disrespect him as a player, as a champion, as a Hall of Famer, the work he's done and all that. But I don't really buy into the notion or the narrative either of trying to take your backhanded shots at the Lions either. They didn't do anything to you. All they've been doing is just winning. You know what they haven't done the last couple of years? They haven't lost back-to-back games. What are you talking about?
Crazy.
You're trying to tell this man how to coach. You talking to him about preparedness? They clean stuff up, man. Yeah. They told y'all about Jared Goff before y'all wanted to accept about Jared Goff. Like, what are we talking about? Everything. Bruschi had some. We'll talk about the JMO comments later. But he said, you're on top now. You have to start coaching like it, as if Dan Campbell didn't know. I'm sorry, was I the only one who heard Dan Campbell last year say, hey, we're the big dogs, and you don't got to go far to find us. We're on your freaking porch already. We'll just be nice enough to not kick your door in. But it's like people are really testing them now. Like, do you want them to just kick your door in? Is that what you really want? Because they're already beating everybody to a pulp right now. This reminds me of that scene in Christian Bale with like the little dude who was like, oh yeah, I think Batman is what's the name? Yeah. It's like you think this dude who's beating criminals by night to a bloody pulp. Right. You wanna start this battle with him? I just don't get it. And I get it, Tedy Bruschi, he has no skin in the game right now, which just makes it even more funny about the teams and the players that are doing it.
Yeah, and see, to me, this is a classic case of somebody who's living in the past a bit. Because Tedy Bruschi, and as you mentioned, KG, Tedy Bruschi was a great Patriot, was one of the pivotal members of those great Belichick defenses. And Tedy Bruschi, what he also knows is he knows good coaching, or at least a version of good coaching, because Bill Belichick is one of the best to ever do that. And that's one of the reasons why I was happy that it came out of Tedy Bruschi's mouth, because I think it's an interesting look into his brain and how he's kind of stubborn, because I believe that Tedy Bruschi thinks that there's really one way to coach, and it's the Belichick way. And the Belichick way worked amazingly. You can argue Belichick is the best way to do it, the best to ever do it. But what we're seeing right now from Dan Campbell, as KG says, for better or for worse, is somebody who's being more of an innovator, more of a revolutionary. I think innovator is probably a better word for it, with the going for it on fourth downs, with valuing possessions. Because, as we've seen with Dan Campbell, it works more often than it doesn't. Have there been some glaring moments where it hasn't worked? Absolutely. But that hasn't cost them any games so far this year. And if you just want to talk about how the Lions have been on fourth down against the Green Bay Packers this year, in their first meeting, they were 2 of 2 with 2 fourth down touchdowns. In their second meeting, they had 2 fourth down touchdowns and put away the game at the end to where they were able to kick a field goal with no time left on the clock. You saw them do it last year against the Los Angeles Chargers, where they wanted to kick the field goal with no time left on the clock and not give the ball back to Justin Herbert. You saw it last year in the playoffs, in which the Lions got a fourth down touchdown in both the Rams game and the Buccaneers game. Say all you want about how it didn't work in the 49ers game and Josh Reynolds dropped the ball. I get it. I'm not even mad at people who question the call, but you probably wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the aggressiveness on a fourth down. And what do all great teams have? All great dynasties, Super Bowl teams, they have an identity, and that's what one of the biggest facets of the Lions' identity. A team that's aggressive, they're going to go for it on fourth down, and they're going to value things like possessions as opposed to weighing the potential risks, because they know that they have the personnel to be able to execute it, and it works more often than it doesn't.
And that's it right there. You said it right there. Because they know they have the personnel to execute it. Their dogs are just bigger than your dogs. You know how I know? Because Xavier McKinney was barking and barking and barking, and then we felt no bite. And now, after the game, via Rieger, shout out to Rieger, he was just like, you know, what about these fourth downs? Yeah, man, it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating, man. We just can't stop them, man.
Right.
Like, well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now you talking about Dan Campbell. Don't do that anymore. Man, get out of here with that crap. It just seemed like a whole bunch of people that want to rain on a parade of dominance.
Yeah.
It's absolute dominance. Everybody thought we were going to be buried and dead. They left us out there in the street, writhing away as they thought. And then it's like, bro, look back. We're literally still standing after Aiden Hutchinson, after Davenport, and we can go down a whole litany of things. Everybody already understands the stats. How many starters from day one are no longer on the active roster and things of that nature. Playing and winning games without Taylor Decker. Playing and winning games without Taylor Decker. Say that 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Can't.
That's what I'm talking about. I saw your hand raised. Golly.
No, I understand your guys' frustration as well, too. And I agree with you, Flannel. I think Tedy Bruschi is just into a old school way of coaching things. And, you know, no disrespect to him as well, too, because I watched him when I was younger as well with that Patriots team. But that's not what the game is right now. Like, all these coaches on the sideline, you're not going to get a Bill Belichick on both sidelines. You're not going to get a Mike Tomlin. You're not going to get an Andy Reid on both sides. Like, every single coach is built different. And having Dan Campbell in this league for this Lions team, it's a breath of fresh air. Now that you see him, you know, taking risks, taking gambles, and actually seeing that this team knows what to do to get those first downs, to move the chains, to actually score in those fourth and goal positions that, you know, it kind of puts you at ease a little bit more. You don't have to worry about it. But the game is evolving, and I just think Tedy Bruschi is kind of stuck in his ways of the past now. But you can't have that anymore.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. If you're somebody who is just one of those guys who played on the Patriots, who's not an analyst and just reveres Bill Belichick and thinks that's the way to be a head coach and there's no other way, I don't necessarily blame you. However, if you're going to transition into being an analyst on ESPN, who a lot of people listen to and a lot of people really look to for what they have to say, because Tedy Bruschi does know ball, or at least he knows ball for like what it was for what it was back in the day. You have a responsibility to evolve. I can see Tedy Bruschi making these points if it would have cost the Lions some wins, but it's actually getting them wins and solidifying games to where you don't give Jordan Love the ball back. You don't give Justin Herbert the ball back. You win playoff games because of it. And for the record, I get it. I'm not going to be one of those people who just says like, oh, if you question anything Dan Campbell does, you're an idiot. I get it. These fourth down calls, they're nerve-wracking. Your heart jumps in your throat a little bit. And sometimes, even in the last game, it doesn't work. But it's not costing the Lions a damn thing. I would say over the totality, it hasn't cost the Lions a damn thing. If you want to talk about the NFC Championship game, fine. They wouldn't have gotten there without them. They wouldn't have gotten there without the fourth downs.
If anything, it's made us better, Sam.
Yes.
And it's no excuse, because Rex Ryan is of that old school mentality.
Yes, he is.
Rex Ryan was coaching back then where, you know, that was looked down upon, and he even understands. So I'm just define what coaching like a top dog means. Does coaching like a top dog not mean 9-8, then 12-5, then 12-1 this year? Does that mean not empowering your players? Like, I don't understand. Define coaching like a top dog.
And when you have the personnel, that's what I loved about what Flannel stated as well. There's been a lot of great conversation and even comments in the chat, things I've agreed with, things I haven't. But when you have the personnel, what are we talking about? Hey, I'm lining up David Montgomery and probably one of the best offensive lines in all of the NFL versus your defensive line. We do this. I got Jared Goff, one of the smartest QBs in the league, probably has a good opportunity to win MVP, if not finish top 3 or top 4, due to IQ.
Yeah.
We do this. We've been doing this. We've proven it. Like, when there's a track record, that's when I'm just like, what do you want? What more do you want? This isn't year one. This isn't day one of them doing this. This has been, as like Flannel said, part of their identity. This is a squad that knows exactly what they're doing. They wouldn't call it if they weren't built for it. That's what I love about their statements about Jared Goff. They said, we know that Jared Goff can make any throw that we'd ask him to.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden people say, oh, man, why would you go get J-Mo? Oh, 60-yard dot, that's why. And go back and look. Some people say, oh, it's just all yak. No, we've seen Jared Goff push the ball down the field, period. And that, to me, is what it's about. They're able to call their shots. They build appropriately. I can't believe that we're seeing such a marriage of everything going so beautifully right now. A GM who says what they want, and then they go out there and do it. A coach who says what he wants, and then he goes out there and does it, and doesn't care about what anybody else is saying, bro. On one week, he's out here bludgeoning a football team. The next week, he's out to dinner with his wife with his hair swooped back, having some wine. And it says, and I will not talk about it. Like, I'm just like, yo, that's my coach. That's my guy. And it seems to be ruffling people's feathers, and I don't know what he did to anybody.
Well, it's the same thing as we had talked about before with the Packers fans. The Lions are the team that's not supposed to be doing this. People had narratives about Dan Campbell from the first press conference, and I'll even raise my hand and say that all of that stuff at the beginning I didn't necessarily like. I had some questions about him, certainly after the first season, and they started 1-6 in year 2. Yeah. But he has...
There should be none at this point.
Oh, zero.
Yeah. I was year to year to year to year.
I was as wrong as you can possibly be. I was looking for a clever analogy, but there's not one that really encompasses just how wrong I was about Dan Campbell. But I wish that other people, like the Tedy Bruschis of the world, would do the same mea culpa that many of others have, including myself.
Right. And there's always kneecaps to bite, Teddy.
There ain't
never enough kneecaps, my dog.
We're already down
never
to
enough.
You be the top dog. Have you missed the part where they've been coaching above their heads in ways that a lot of people didn't think they'd be able to, with all of the injuries that they have sustained, and also, different things throughout the game, like Brian Branch being thrown out the Packers game, when up to that point he was clearly our best defensive player in that game, and we still pulled out a victory in Lambeau. That used to be a house of horrors. It didn't matter. It didn't matter who was quarterback. It didn't matter if Stafford and Calvin Johnson went out there and put up 1,000 yards. It wouldn't matter. The Packers would somehow get 1,001 with a backup. It just would happen. That's why I'm not even. It's real. We saw it. We saw Matt Flynn get paid because of it. Mark Royal, I want to be fair because there's just another side of this. Dan gave the Packers 7 points for free. No need to go for it on our 31.
Well,
dumb.
Let me just say that, but they're also, and that's what I was talking about earlier, because it hasn't worked every single time, but you have to balance the good with the bad, because they also scored 2 touchdowns on 4th down. They also ensured that they could kick the field goal with no time left on the clock instead of give the ball back to Jordan Love with 40 seconds down 3 because of the 4th down. So it works more often than it doesn't. Are they going to go 100%? No. Are there going to be some cases like the fake punt in Minnesota where you're sort of like, that probably wasn't the smartest? Sure. But they won that game. They won the Packers game. They won the Packers game in Lambeau this year, partially because of 4th downs. They won playoff games by converting 4th down touchdowns. It's just, it works more often than it doesn't. And I get it. Sometimes it's uncomfortable because of the ramifications if you don't get it. Yeah. But it's won you games, man. But won you big games.
It's our uncomfortability. For them, the players are like, they're jacked up. For me, the other team is the one that I'm seeing scrambling around, and now they have to play a certain tense aspect of football because the Detroit Lions, literally, just to borrow even more Batman stuff, their success has been born in this type of pressure, of playing pressure-filled football.
Exactly.
They are born in this. The other teams now, each and every time, they're like, oh my goodness, like what are we going to do? The Detroit Lions already have the offense good enough to wear out a defense. already. And now you're talking about extending drives. And that's what Xavier McKinney was talking about. Like they're not able to get off the field at all. How is the quarterback going to be able to get any type of rhythm? When we talk about a guy like a Jordan Love putting up those pedestrian numbers, and I was told how talented he is and all of this other stuff, but for some reason, there is another thing here. It's not just how little time the quarterbacks have to throw the ball, our opponent quarterbacks, but it seems to be something with this Lions offense and going for it for fourth down, which keeps them on the sideline, and they're not able to really get the rhythm that they want to get. I think that Dan Campbell is playing a level of football that, like you said, it's something that a lot of people might have been uncomfortable about before, but with all the advancements, with numbers and the metrics and such, now you're able to say, wait, if we go for it here and if we get it, we have the opportunity to keep Jordan Love on the bench for another how long while our defense is a little banged up. I think that is a good strategy, in my opinion.
Well, that's the thing, especially now, because you've seen it work with a certain other team. Ball control, controlling the clock, keeping other offenses off of the field is a big, I would say, thing that the Lions have done in order to get wins.
It's their greatest strength. Time of possession
absolutely.
football.
And that's where Dan Campbell has really grown as a clock manager. And I think I think like imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And I'm not saying that the Lions imitated this team, but the team that you see do it the best or has done it the best in previous years and continues to do it well, including last night, is the Kansas City Chiefs. Say what you want about them. Say what you want about how this year they've really they've escaped and probably got some wins that they shouldn't have, but they know how to run that 4-minute offense. They know how to kick field goals with no time left on the clock. They know how to run clock and just end games when you get the ball with like 6 minutes left. And that's what the Lions have been doing as well. And part of it is getting those key fourth downs when you can't get it on third.
Yeah. Hey, Freddie fell through and through. I see you. Does anyone else notice we're slowly drifting away from this lovable underdog team? Lean into the hate. Detroit versus everybody. Like
it's
I said,
bound
we
to
were
happen.
born
Gotta
in
embrace
that.
it.
Yeah.
We were born in that. Like, when we say we're America's team, I'm hoping people understand what it comes with. It comes with that same brashness. It comes with that same aggression. It comes with the same harshness, even if we don't mean it, that you see Dan Campbell walk around here with. He's not somebody new on the scene to Detroit. He was here before. You talk about a guy whose career had to be rebooted from an 0-16 season, and it wound up culminating here in him saying, we're wearing those same jerseys. How many years did fans say, no, not those cursed things? Dan Campbell, it was like flip middle fingers to everybody. It's like, y'all clearly don't know who I am. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's something different here. They say Chiefs magic. I'm going with the Lions magic, bro, because there's something different going on with this squad. And that's why I get behind the decisions they make. They look prepared. They're well coached. They're bringing in the right people. As they've continued to get better, other positional coaches have wanted to be here. Other top players in the league have wanted to be here. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I love about this. That's what I love about this. So when all the other people from the outside start to just yap, I almost think it's just jealousy.